The bitter wind cut across New Phoenix's skyline, bringing with it the metallic tang of the city's industrial sector. In the Vexillian Medical District, the towering structures gleamed with sterile efficiency, their surfaces reflecting the kaleidoscope of lights from passing shuttles and the permanent advertisements hovering in the night sky. Midnight had come and gone, leaving the streets nearly deserted, except for the occasional maintenance bot and the hurried steps of those unfortunate enough to need medical attention at this hour. Ryan Mercer pulled his jacket tighter around his frame as he exited the Atmospheric Regulation Center. His shift had run 4 hours longer than scheduled, due to an unexpected pressure fluctuation in Sector 7. As the lead atmospheric technician for the residential districts, he couldn't leave until the system stabilized. Now, with exhaustion seeping into his bones, all he wanted was to get home to his small apartment, collapse into bed, and forget about oxygen percentages and methane filters for at least 8 hours. He trudged toward the public transit hub, his boots scraping against the pavement. The route took him past the towering Vexillian Xenophysiology Center, its sleek edifice a testament to the corporation's dominance in interspecies healthcare. Usually, Ryan paid little attention to the building, but tonight, something caught his eye, a discarded gurney left haphazardly at the side entrance. Ryan slowed his pace, frowning. The gurney wasn't empty. A figure lay curled on its surface, covered with what appeared to be a thin thermal sheet that fluttered in the cold wind. No medical personnel were in sight. No security drones hovered nearby. Just a gurney and its abandoned occupant. "Hello," Ryan called, changing direction and approaching cautiously. "Are you all right?" No response came, but, as Ryan drew closer, he noticed a faint, turquoise glow pulsing beneath the sheet. His pace quickened. He recognized that distinctive luminescence Lumidian. The being on the gurney was from the crystalline race that had made contact with humanity just 30 years prior. Ryan reached the gurney and carefully pulled back the thermal sheet. The Lumidian was female, at least. That was his best guess, based on the more delicate facial structure compared to the males he'd encountered. Her normally radiant skin, which should have glowed with an inner light that shifted between turquoise and violet depending on her emotional state, was now dim with only occasional weak pulses of light traveling across her translucent form. Her eyes, large almond-shaped orbs that typically glowed with an intense inner fire, were half closed, the light within them flickering dangerously. "Hey," Ryan said softly, placing a gentle hand on what approximated her shoulder. The surface felt cool to the touch, too cool. Lumidians naturally ran hot, their bodies containing a complex network of energy pathways that generated both light and heat. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered the glow within them, strengthening momentarily before dimming again. A weak voice emerged, the translator embedded in her throat collar, converting her native harmonic language to English. "They said, not worth treatment cost." The words came out fragmented, the translator struggling as her energy fluctuated. Ryan glanced at the Vexillian Center rage building inside him. He'd heard rumors about their cost-benefit approach to healthcare, but this abandoning a patient outside to effectively die was beyond cruel. "What's your name?" he asked, already shrugging off his jacket. "Vanra." She managed her voice a whisper through the translator. "I'm Ryan. I'm going to help you, Vanra." He wrapped his jacket around her, knowing it would do little good, but unable to stand by and do nothing. His mind raced. The main hospitals wouldn't take her, if Vexillian had already deemed her case unprofitable, and the public clinics weren't equipped for Lumidian physiology. Then an idea struck him. It was unorthodox, possibly illegal, but it might be her only chance. "Hang on," he told her, unlocking the gurney's brake mechanism. "I know someone who might be able to help." The gurney's hover pads activated as Ryan released the locks, allowing him to push it with minimal effort. He navigated away from the main medical district, taking side streets and service alleys to avoid detection. If Vexillian security spotted him taking an unprofitable patient, they might try to stop him, not out of concern for Vanra, but to avoid potential litigation. 30 minutes later, Ryan pushed the gurney into a dimly lit area of the city, where the sleek architecture of the central districts gave way to more practical functional buildings. His destination stood at the end of a quiet street, a modest structure with a holographic sign displaying Kazara's veterinary services, all species welcome. Ryan had met Kazara 2 years ago when he'd found an injured Martian sandfox on a maintenance route. The Arcturan veterinarian had not only saved the creature, but had shown a level of compassion Ryan rarely encountered in the increasingly corporate medical field. If anyone would help without asking questions, it would be Kazara. He pressed the night call button, and moments later, the door slid open to reveal the tall, fur-covered form of an Arcturan. Kazara's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as she took in the scene before her. "Ryan Mercer," she said, her voice a deep rumble. "This is not a pet." "I know," Ryan admitted. "But she needs help and the Vexillion Center left her to die outside. Please, Kazara." All 4 of Kazara's eyes narrowed, then widened as she noticed the weakening glow beneath Ryan's jacket. Without another word, she stepped aside. "Bring her in, quickly." Ryan pushed the gurney into the clinic, and Kazara immediately locked the door behind them. The space was clean, but cluttered with equipment designed for a variety of species scattered throughout. Holographic diagrams of different alien anatomies lined the walls, and the air smelled faintly of antiseptic and something herbal. "Put her in the examination room," Kazara directed, moving to a cabinet and retrieving various instruments. "What do you know about her condition?" "Nothing," Ryan admitted, as he maneuvered the gurney through the doorway. "I found her abandoned outside the Vexillion Center. She said something about not being worth the treatment cost." Kazara's fur bristled, a sign of anger in Arcturans. Typical Vexillion calculation. Life reduced to profit margins. She approached Vanra and gently removed Ryan's jacket. "I am Kazara. I am going to examine you. Is that acceptable?" Vanra's eyes flickered and her translator produced a weak affirmative sound. Kazara worked methodically, using instruments Ryan had never seen before. She passed the scanning devices over Vanra's body, analyzed the patterns of light beneath her translucent skin, and checked readings on a handheld device. Throughout the examination, her movements remained gentle, her 4-fingered hands careful not to cause discomfort. "I am not a specialist in Lumidian physiology," Kazara admitted after several minutes. "But I have treated energy-based lifeforms before. From what I can determine, she is suffering from stellar cascade syndrome." "What's that?" Ryan asked, hovering nearby. "It is a condition where the energy pathways in a Lumidian's body begin to destabilize, creating a feedback loop that progressively weakens their life force." Kazara adjusted a dial on her scanner. "It is treatable with the right resources and expertise." "So why would Vexillion abandon her?" Kazara's upper eyes focused on Ryan, while her lower pair continued monitoring the readouts. "The treatment is complex and requires rare materials. For a corporation like Vexillion, the profit margin would be minimal or negative." She set down her instruments. "I can stabilize her temporarily, but I cannot cure her." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, frustration building. "What does she need? There has to be something we can do." Kazara hesitated, then moved to a computer terminal. "Lumidians require a specific type of phosphorescent algae found in Europa's subsurface ocean. The compounds within it can help reset their energy pathways." She brought up an image of a glowing blue-green organism. "It must be fresh and properly processed. This is likely why Vexillion deemed her case unprofitable. Harvesting missions to Europa are costly and dangerous." Ryan looked at Vanra, whose light was pulsing more irregularly now. He thought about his empty apartment, his job at the Atmospheric Regulation Center, his quiet, safe existence. Then he thought about this being left to die alone in the cold, because her life wasn't deemed profitable enough to save. "How long will your stabilization treatment last?" he asked. Kazara studied him with her upper eyes. "Perhaps 3 days. Why?" "Because I'm going to get that algae." Kazara didn't laugh or dismiss him. Instead, she seemed to measure his resolve. "You would risk much for someone you just met." Wouldn't you? Ryan countered, remembering how she'd spent hours treating a Martian sandfox most would have euthanized. All four of her eyes blinked in unison, an Arcturan smile. I would indeed. She turned back to Vanra. Let me begin the stabilization treatment. Then we will discuss what you will need for Europa. As Kazara worked, Ryan pulled out his handheld device and began researching. Europa missions were indeed restricted, but there were always cargo ships making the journey to Jupiter's moons for scientific and industrial purposes. He'd need to find one willing to take on an extra passenger without asking too many questions. He also needed equipment for collecting the algae deep-sea gear, modified for the crushing pressure and extreme cold of Europa's subsurface ocean. And most importantly, he needed a way to process the algae once collected. The raw material wouldn't be enough. It needed to be converted into a form Vanra's body could absorb. By the time Kazara had finished the stabilization treatment, a complex procedure involving energy infusions, and the application of a bioluminescent compound to Vanra's skin, Ryan had compiled a list of what he needed and potential sources. Vanra's condition had improved slightly. Her glow was steadier, though still dim, and she was now fully conscious, watching them with large, luminous eyes. I understand what you are planning, she said, her translator functioning more smoothly now. You must not take such risks for me. Ryan approached the examination table where she lay. Why not? Because Vexillion decided you weren't worth it. They explained that my condition has only a 63% chance of full recovery, even with the Europa treatment. Her voice carried no bitterness, only a resigned acceptance that made Ryan's chest tighten. The cost-benefit analysis was not in my favor. That's not how this works, Ryan said firmly. Not how it should work anyway. Your life isn't a calculation. Vanra studied him, confusion evident in the way her inner light rippled. You are angry on my behalf. Damn right I am. But you do not know me. Ryan shook his head. I don't need to know you deserve a chance. The light beneath Vanra's skin pulsed more strongly, for a moment a flicker of hope amid the dim glow. My people have a saying, light recognizes light across the void. Perhaps this is what they meant. Perhaps, Ryan agreed suddenly, self-conscious under her intense gaze. Kazara returned with a small device, breaking the moment. This is a bioregulator, she explained, handing it to Ryan. It will help stabilize her energy pathways during your journey. You must ensure it remains charged and connected. Ryan examined the device. It was clearly cobbled together from various medical components, but Kazara's modifications made it uniquely suited for Vanra's needs. I have a contact at the spaceport, Kazara continued. Grex is Torian. I saved his bonded pair's life last year. He might be able to help you secure passage. Thank you, Ryan said, genuinely moved by her assistance. Do not thank me yet. Kazara's tone turned grave. What you attempt is dangerous and illegal in several ways. Vexillion will not be pleased if they discover you have taken a patient they deemed unprofitable. And the Europa restricted zones are heavily monitored. I understand the risks, Ryan assured her. Do you? Kazara's four eyes fixed on him intently. You could lose your job, your freedom, perhaps even your life. Ryan glanced at Vanra, who was watching their exchange with uncertainty, rippling through her diminished glow. Some things are worth the risk. Over the next few hours, as the first light of dawn began to color the sky, they prepared. Kazara provided medical supplies and modified the bioregulator to be more efficient. Ryan made calls, cashed in favors, and arranged for the equipment he would need. Most importantly, he contacted Grex at the spaceport. The Torian had indeed remembered Kazara's help and was willing to return the favor. He knew of a cargo ship, the Persistent, departing for Europa that same day. The captain, a former military specialist named Hardy, occasionally took on passengers who preferred to avoid official channels for a price. We need to move her, Ryan told Kazara as he ended the call with Grex. Our transport leaves in 4 hours. Preparing Vanra for transport was delicate work. The bioregulator, needed to be attached to her primary energy pathway, a pulsing channel that ran from her chest to her abdomen. Kazara showed Ryan how to monitor the readings and make adjustments if necessary. "Your technology," Vanra observed as Ryan worked, "it is not meant for medical purposes." Ryan glanced up, surprised by her observation. "How can you tell?" "The configuration. It has been adapted from something else." Her eyes studied the device with interest. "You have engineering knowledge." "Atmospheric systems," Ryan explained. "But the principles are similar: energy flow, pressure regulation, feedback loops." "Impressive adaptation," she commented, watching as he completed the connection. The bioregulator hummed to life, its indicators glowing in sync with her own internal light. Ryan felt a strange sensation as the bioregulator established its connection, a momentary harmony between the device, Vanra's energy, and himself. It was as if, for just an instant, he could sense the complex network of light that made up her being. The feeling faded quickly, but it left him with a profound sense of connection. "Did you feel that?" he asked, looking at her in wonder. Vanra's light pulsed more brightly. "The resonance, yes. It is unusual for a non-Lumidian to perceive it." "What does it mean?" "It means," Kazara interjected, her tone amused, "that we should hurry to the spaceport before your transport leaves." They used Kazara's medical transport vehicle to move Vanra, concealing her under specialized medical blankets that masked her energy signature. The journey to the spaceport was tense, with each security checkpoint presenting a potential disaster. But Kazara's veterinary credentials and calm demeanor got them through without incident. Grex met them at a rarely used service entrance, his scaled skin gleaming under the harsh spaceport lights. The Taurian led them through a maze of maintenance corridors to a loading bay where the Persistent was docked. The ship was not what Ryan had expected. Rather than the sleek corporate vessels that dominated New Phoenix's spaceport, the Persistent was clearly a former military transport, battered, retrofitted, but undeniably powerful. Its hull bore the scars of micrometeor impacts and hasty repairs, telling the story of a vessel that had survived where others hadn't. Captain Hardy proved equally weathered. A tall human woman with close-cropped gray hair and cybernetic enhancements visible along her jawline and neck, she assessed Ryan and Vanra with the calculating gaze of someone who had seen too much to be easily surprised. "Grex says you need passage to Europa," she stated, her voice carrying the slight metallic undertone common to those with vocal augmentations. "And that your companion requires specialized care." "Yes," Ryan confirmed. "We can pay." He transferred the agreed-upon sum from his account, nearly everything he had saved over 3 years. Hardy's eyes flickered as her implants confirmed the transaction. "Grex also mentioned you might need assistance with collection activities once we arrive." Ryan hesitated. They hadn't discussed this part. "My ship, my business," Hardy said, interpreting his silence. "If you're harvesting restricted materials, I need to know what I'm risking my crew for." "Phosphorescent algae," Ryan admitted. "From beneath the ice, for medical purposes." Hardy studied Vanra, noting the bioregulator and her weakened state. Something in her expression softened slightly. "I have a diving specialist on board who might be able to help. Dr. Mara Hamish. She's been studying Europa's subsurface ecosystem for years." Ryan felt a surge of hope. "She would know where to find the algae." "And how to process it," Hardy confirmed. "She's not corporate, independent researcher, plays by her own rules." She gestured toward the ship. "Get your friends settled in medical. We depart in 30 minutes. As they boarded, Ryan glanced back at Grex and Kazara. The Arcturan veterinarian raised a 4-fingered hand in farewell, all 4 eyes blinking in that peculiar smile. "Light recognizes light," she called, echoing Vanra's earlier words. The Persistent's medical bay was small, but well-equipped, designed to handle emergency situations for a variety of species. Hardy's crew helped transfer Vanra from the transport and set up the bioregulator to draw power from the ship's systems. As Ryan was adjusting the settings, a slender woman with dark skin and vivid blue artificial eyes entered the bay. Her hair was braided in complex patterns that seemed to mimic flowing water, and she wore the practical clothing of someone who spent more time in the field than in laboratories. "You must be our passengers," she said, her accent hinting at Martian origins. "I'm Mara Hamish. Hardy tells me you're after phosphorescent algae." For her, Ryan indicated Vanra. "She has stellar cascade syndrome." Dr. Hamish approached Vanra, her blue artificial eyes scanning with more than just visual input. "May I?" she asked, motioning toward the bioregulator. Vanra nodded, and Hamish examined the device with expert hands. "Clever adaptation," she commented, echoing Vanra's earlier observation. "Your work." "Yes," Ryan admitted. "I'm an atmospheric systems technician." Hamish murmured, continuing her examination. "The Vexillians refused treatment, I assume." "Left her outside to die," Ryan confirmed, unable to keep the bitterness from his voice. Hamish straightened her expression, hardening. "Typical corporate medicine. Calculate the return on investment before calculating the treatment." She turned to Vanra. "The algae will help, but extraction and processing are challenging. We'll need to dive into one of the deep fissures where the ice is thinner." "Is that dangerous?" Ryan asked. Hamish's artificial eyes gleamed. "Extremely. But I've done it before." She studied Vanra again. "The bioregulator is buying time, but it's not a solution. How long has it been since the Vexillian Center discharged you?" "Approximately 8 hours," Vanra replied, her voice weaker than before. "We'll need to move quickly then. The journey to Europa takes nearly 48 hours, even with the persistence-enhanced drive system." She addressed Ryan. "The bioregulator will need adjustments during the journey to compensate for her deteriorating condition. Can you handle that?" "I'll learn whatever I need to," Ryan assured her. "Good," Hamish nodded approvingly. "I'll prepare the diving equipment and processing lab. We should reach Europa in 2 days. Until then, keep her stable." As Hamish left, Ryan felt the slight lurch as the persistent disengaged from its docking clamps. Through a small viewport, he watched New Phoenix fall away beneath them, its towering structures shrinking until they became mere points of light against the planet's surface. "You have left your world behind," Vanra observed, her voice quiet. "For a stranger." Ryan turned back to her. "Sometimes the right thing to do isn't the sensible thing. Your sacrifice, I do not know how to repay it." "Survive," Ryan said simply. "That's repayment enough." The journey to Europa was a constant battle against time. Despite the bioregulator's effectiveness, Vanra's condition gradually deteriorated. The cascade effect was accelerating her energy pathways, destabilizing more rapidly than anticipated. Ryan rarely left the medical bay, constantly monitoring and adjusting the bioregulator. He learned quickly his technical background, allowing him to understand the complex interplay between the device and Vanra's unique physiology. Twice, he had to reconfigure the system entirely when it began to fail, using parts scavenged from the ship's non-essential systems. During these critical moments, that strange resonance occurred again, stronger each time. It was as if, in focusing so intently on saving her, Ryan was developing a sensitivity to Lumidian energy patterns. He could feel the flow of light through her body, sense the areas where the cascade effect was most pronounced, and adjust the bioregulator accordingly. Dr. Hamish noticed this developing connection during her frequent visits to check on Vanra. "Fascinating," she remarked, after watching Ryan make an intuitive adjustment that immediately stabilized a dangerous fluctuation. "It's almost like you're developing a sympathetic resonance with her energy signature." "Is that possible?" Ryan asked, wiping sweat from his brow after the intense concentration. "Theoretically, no," Hamish admitted. "Lumidian energy patterns are supposed to be incompatible with human neurology. But clearly, something is happening here." In the quiet hours between crises, as Vanra rested and the bioregulator hummed steadily, they talked. Ryan learned about her life as a cultural interpreter, helping Lumidian delegations communicate with other species beyond mere language. Vanra discovered his childhood dreams of exploration that had given way to the practical reality of atmospheric system maintenance. "Why did you never pursue exploration?" she asked during their second night aboard the Persistent. Ryan adjusted a setting on the bioregulator before answering. "Life happened. My parents needed financial support during the economic restructuring. Entry-level positions in the Exploration Guild were prestigious, but didn't pay well." He shrugged. "Atmospheric systems were hiring, paid well, and I had an aptitude for it." "Do you regret your choice?" Ryan considered the question seriously. "Not until recently. The work is important, just not exciting." "And now, you are on an illegal mission to Europa." Vanra's light pulsed with what Ryan had come to recognize as amusement. "Would you call that exciting?" Ryan laughed softly. "Terrifying is more accurate." As they neared Jupiter's orbit, Captain Hardy called them to the bridge. The massive gas giant dominated the view screen, its swirling storms and distinctive bands creating a mesmerizing spectacle. Europa was visible as a small, gleaming orb, its surface a network of cracks across the icy exterior. "We have a problem," Hardy announced without preamble. "Vexillian patrol vessel has been tracking us since we left Earth orbit. They're demanding we surrender the Lumidian patient." "How did they know?" Ryan demanded, a chill running down his spine. "Unknown." Hardy replied, her cybernetic implants glowing as she processed multiple information streams simultaneously. "But they're claiming theft of medical property." "Property," Ryan spat the word. "She's a person." "Not according to Vexillian contract law," Hardy countered. "When she was admitted, she would have signed or been deemed to have accepted their standard care agreement. It likely includes clauses regarding their proprietary treatment protocols and ongoing patient monitoring requirements." "Even after they abandoned her to die?" Hardy's expression was grim. "Legal loopholes. They're very good at them." "What are our options?" Hamish asked, her artificial eyes tracking data across the ship's displays. "We can surrender and face penalties," Hardy began, "or we can attempt to evade and complete our mission." "Evade," Ryan said immediately. "We've come too far to give up now." Hardy nodded, seeming unsurprised by his choice. "I anticipated as much. I've plotted a course that will use Jupiter's gravity well to accelerate us toward Europa. It's risky, we'll be making a high-velocity approach, but it should give us enough time to complete your collection before the Vexillian vessel can catch up." "And after?" Ryan asked. Hardy's cybernetic eye gleamed. "One problem at a time, Mercer." The maneuver was terrifying. The Persistent plunged toward Jupiter, using the massive planet's gravity to slingshot toward Europa at dangerous speeds. The ship groaned under the strain, its structural integrity systems working overtime to compensate for the gravitational forces. In the medical bay, Ryan held onto Vanra's gurney, keeping her secure as the ship bucked and shuddered. The bioregulator flickered dangerously several times, but held. Vanra herself seemed oddly calm, her glow pulsing in sync with the ship's stressed systems, as if she were connected to the Persistent itself. When they finally emerged from the maneuver, Europa filled the viewports a brilliant white sphere, marked with reddish-brown streaks, where minerals from the subsurface ocean had stained the ice. "Prepare for emergency deceleration," Hardy's voice announced over the ship's comm system. "Impact with Europa's surface in 15 minutes. "Impact," Ryan echoed, alarmed. "Controlled crash landing," Hamish clarified, as she entered the medical bay, already dressed in thermal gear. "It's the fastest way to reach the surface, and the only way to avoid the Vexillian ship, which is still 8 hours behind us, thanks to Hardy's maneuver." She tossed thermal suits to Ryan. "Get her ready for transport. We'll need to move quickly once we're down." The Persistent's landing, if it could be called that, was a masterclass in controlled chaos. Hardy used the ship's thrusters to slow their descent enough to prevent catastrophic damage, but the impact still sent equipment flying and triggered multiple system failures. "Everyone's still breathing," Hardy's voice came through the emergency comm system. "Medical bay intact," Ryan reported, checking Vanra and the bioregulator. "We're ready to move." "External atmosphere is thin but present," Hardy informed them. Temperature is negative 160 Celsius. Pressure suits required. Get what you need and get back. We won't be able to stay long. With Hamish leading the way, they transported Vanra to the ship's airlock. The portable version of the bioregulator was less efficient than the ship-connected system, giving them a narrower window of time to find and process the algae. The nearest known fissure with access to the subsurface ocean is 3 kilometers north, Hamish explained, as they suited up. We'll use the rover to get there, then deploy the submersible probe. Ryan questioned. Someone needs to stay with Vanra. She's coming with us, Hamish stated firmly. The closer she is to the extraction site, the fresher the algae will be when we process it. Besides, we can't risk separating. If the Vexillian ship arrives earlier than expected, we all need to be together for immediate extraction. Ryan couldn't argue with the logic, though. The thought of exposing Vanra to more risk troubled him. They carefully transferred her to the rover, a rugged vehicle designed for Europa's harsh conditions, and secured the bioregulator. The journey across Europa's surface was eerie and beautiful. The ice gleamed under the distant sun, creating a landscape of blinding white, broken only by the dark cracks that spider-webbed across the moon's surface. Jupiter loomed enormous in the sky, its presence so massive it seemed to press down on them. When they reached the fissure, it was more impressive than Ryan had imagined, a massive crack in the ice that plunged into darkness, steam occasionally rising from its depths, where water from the subsurface ocean made contact with the vacuum above. We'll deploy the probe here, Hamish announced, bringing the rover to a stop at the fissure's edge. The submersible will descend approximately 5 kilometers to reach the upper layers of the ocean, where the algae colonies thrive. Ryan helped unload the submersible, a compact drone-like device equipped with collection arms and pressurized storage containers. Will this be enough? He asked, eyeing the relatively small vessel. We don't need much, Hamish assured him, programming the collection parameters. A few grams of the concentrated algae properly processed should be sufficient to reset Vanra's energy pathways. As Hamish prepared to deploy the submersible, an alarm sounded from the rover's communication system. Hardy's voice came through tight with urgency. Vexillian vessel approaching faster than anticipated. They must have pushed their engines beyond safety parameters. Estimated arrival in 45 minutes. Not enough time, Hamish muttered, her artificial eyes calculating rapidly. The submersible needs at least 30 minutes for descent, collection, and return. Add another 20 for processing. What if we dive directly? Ryan suggested, looking at the pressurized diving suits stowed in the rover's equipment bay. Hamish stared at him as if he'd suggested setting himself on fire. The pressure at the algae colony depth would crush a standard diving suit. But not one reinforced with the rover's external plating. Ryan countered, already moving toward the equipment. I can modify it. Even if you could, the suit's heating system can be overclocked if we reroute power from the non-essential systems. Hamish's artificial eyes widened slightly. You'd have 15 minutes at most before system failure. Then I'll be quick. While Hamish reluctantly helped Ryan modify the suit, Vanra watched from the rover, her glow fluctuating more erratically now. The portable bioregulator was struggling to maintain stability. Your risk calculation is flawed, she told Ryan, as he prepared to seal the reinforced helmet. The probability of success does not justify the danger. Ryan paused, turning to face her. Some things can't be calculated, Vanra. All things can be calculated, she countered, echoing the Vexillian philosophy that had nearly cost her life. That is how decisions should be made. Is that what you believe? Ryan challenged. Or is that what you've been taught to believe? The question seemed to catch her off guard. Her light pulsed in an uneven pattern that Ryan had come to recognize as confusion or deep thought. I do not know, she finally admitted. I have never considered the distinction. Well, I have, Ryan said, securing the helmet. And I'm choosing to dive. The descent into Europa's subsurface ocean was like entering another world. Ryan's modified suit creaked alarmingly as the pressure increased, but the reinforcements held. The ice walls of the fissure gave way to open black water, illuminated only by the suit's external lights. As he descended deeper, the darkness began to change. Faint streaks of bioluminescence appeared in the water, tiny organisms that thrived in the lightless depths. Deeper still, and the streaks became patches, then entire fields of gentle pulsing light. The algae colonies, when he finally reached them, were breathtaking. Vast mats of phosphorescent life clung to underwater ice formations, their glow shifting between brilliant turquoise and deep violet remarkably similar to Lumidian energy patterns. Following Hamish's instructions, Ryan collected samples from multiple colonies, storing them in specially designed containers that would preserve their bioluminescent properties. The work was delicate and time-consuming, made more difficult by the suit's bulky reinforcements and the steadily mounting pressure that caused his ears to pop painfully, despite the suit's compensators. Just as he finished collecting the final sample, a warning light flashed inside his helmet. The suit's integrity was failing faster than anticipated. He had minutes, not the quarter hour Hamish had estimated to return to the surface. The ascent was a blur of pain and determination. The suit cracked in several places, emergency sealant deploying automatically to prevent catastrophic failure. One of the reinforced plates tore away entirely, leaving his left arm exposed to crushing pressure that would have pulverized the limb if not for the emergency field that activated in response. When he finally broke the surface of the water and dragged himself onto the ice, Hamish was waiting with emergency medical equipment. "You're insane," she informed him clinically as she helped remove the damaged suit. "And extremely lucky. Did you get the samples?" Ryan held up the collection containers, each glowing with captured bioluminescence. "All of them!" Back at the rover, they found Vanra's condition had deteriorated significantly. The bioregulator was emitting warning tones, its displays showing dangerous instability in her core energy pathways. Hamish immediately began processing the algae samples, using a portable centrifuge to extract the compounds needed for treatment. "We need to administer this quickly," she said, watching as the extraction process separated glowing blue fluid from the algae mass. "Her system is approaching critical cascade failure." The first dose was administered directly to Vanra's primary energy pathway, Hamish using a specialized injector to deliver the glowing compound into the translucent channel at her core. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Vanra's dim light flared brightly, then stabilized at a stronger glow than they had seen since finding her. "It's working!" Ryan breathed relief washing over him. "Temporarily," Hamish cautioned. "She'll need 2 more doses at precise intervals to fully reset her energy pathways." As they prepared to return to the ship, Hardy's voice came through the comm system once more. "Vexillian vessel has entered orbit. They're deploying surface teams to our location. Get back here now." The return journey was a race against both Vanra's condition and the approaching Vexillian security forces. Hamish drove the rover at dangerous speeds across Europa's icy terrain, pushing its systems beyond recommended parameters, while Ryan monitored Vanra and prepared the second dose of the algae compound. They could see the persistent in the distance when the first Vexillian shuttle appeared in the sky above them, a sleek, corporate vessel with weapon systems clearly visible along its hull. "They're blocking our approach to the ship," Hamish noted, grimly watching as the shuttle descended between them and the persistent. "Can we go around?" Ryan asked, administering the second dose to Vanra. Her glow strengthened again, more steadily this time. "Not without giving them time to deploy ground forces," Hamish replied. "We need a distraction." Before they could formulate a plan, the ice near the Vexillian shuttle erupted in a controlled explosion. The shuttle veered sharply, its systems momentarily disrupted by the blast. "That would be our distraction," Hardy's voice announced through the comm. "Courtesy of some mining charges we had in storage. Get to the ship now while they're recalibrating their sensors." Hamish didn't need to be told twice. She accelerated the rover toward the persistent, taking advantage of the confusion. They reached the ship's loading ramp, just as the Vexillian shuttle regained control and turned toward them. "Everyone aboard," Hardy demanded, as they secured Vanra in the medical bay. "All present," Hamish confirmed. "But we have another problem. Vanra needs one more dose of the algae compound in approximately 6 hours. We can't administer it during high-G maneuvers. Then we'll have to outrun them long enough to reach a stable flight path," Hardy decided. "Strap in. This is going to get rough." The Persistent lifted off from Europa's surface with a roar of engines pushed beyond their design specifications. The Vexillian shuttle gave chase immediately its superior engines, allowing it to gain on them steadily. "They're charging weapons," Hardy announced. "Apparently they've decided that if they can't have their medical property back, no one can." "Can we reach Jupiter's radiation belts?" Hamish asked. "Their corporate sensors won't be calibrated for that level of interference." "Worth a try," Hardy agreed, adjusting their course. The maneuver worked to a point. The dense radiation belts surrounding Jupiter disrupted the Vexillian vessel's targeting systems, preventing them from getting a weapons lock. But the Persistent systems were equally affected, making navigation treacherous. For nearly 5 hours, they played a dangerous game of cat and mouse within Jupiter's lethal radiation environment. The Persistent took damage, minor systems failing hull integrity, compromised in non-critical areas. But Hardy's experience and the ship's military-grade radiation shielding kept them functioning. When they finally emerged from the radiation belts, the Vexillian vessel was nowhere to be seen on their sensors. Whether damage destroyed or simply unable to locate them, they couldn't tell and didn't care to find out. "We have stable flight," Hardy announced. "Administer the final dose." In the medical bay, Ryan prepared the third and final treatment. Vanra's condition had improved dramatically since the second dose, her glow now steady and bright, though not yet at full Lumidian luminescence. "This should complete the energy pathway reset," Hamish explained, helping position the injector. "Her system should then be able to maintain stability on its own." As Ryan administered the dose, that strange resonance he had felt before returned stronger than ever. It was as if he could see the complex network of light that made up Vanra's being, could feel the energy flowing through her pathways, rebuilding and regenerating what the cascade effect had damaged. But this time, something new happened. The resonance didn't fade. Instead, it strengthened, creating a feedback loop between them that intensified until Ryan felt as though his own body was filled with light. Vanra's eyes widened, her glow pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. "Extraordinary," Hamish whispered, her artificial eyes recording the phenomenon. "I've never seen anything like this. It's as if your energy signatures are harmonizing." The resonance continued for several minutes, before gradually subsiding to a subtle but persistent connection. Ryan could still sense Vanra's energy patterns, but less intensely. It was like a background awareness, knowing where she was and how she felt without needing to see her. "What happened?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Vanra's light had stabilized at full luminescence, shifting between turquoise and violet in the healthy patterns typical of her species. "A bond," she said softly. "My people call it resonant synchronization. It is rare even among Lumidians and was thought impossible with other species." "Is it permanent?" Ryan asked, uncertain how to feel about this unexpected development. "Yes," Vanra confirmed. "Though its nature and strength may evolve." She paused, studying him. "Does this disturb you?" Ryan considered the question seriously. Just days ago, he had been an atmospheric systems technician with a quiet, predictable life. Now he was bonded to a Lumidian woman he had rescued from certain death, fleeing from corporate security on a battered cargo ship in Jupiter's orbit. "No," he realized, surprised by his own certainty. "It doesn't disturb me at all." 6 months later, Ryan stood at the viewport of their small dwelling on Titan, watching Saturn's rings gleam in the perpetual twilight. Behind him, Vanra cradled their daughter, a seemingly impossible hybrid of human and Lumidian biology, made possible by their unique, resonant bond. Nova, as they had named her, displayed characteristics of both species. Her skin held a subtle luminescence that brightened with her emotions, and her eyes human in structure, but with an inner light that shifted colors like her mother's, watched the world with the innocent curiosity of any infant. "She is growing stronger," Vanra observed gently, stroking their daughter's cheek. "Her light pulses more steadily each day." Ryan turned from the viewport to join them, feeling the familiar warmth of their shared resonance. The bond had indeed evolved over the months, becoming more nuanced and complex. He could sense not only Vanra's energy patterns, but now Nova's as well, a smaller, simpler network that was gradually developing its own unique signature. Dr. Hamish's latest scans confirmed her energy pathways are developing normally, Ryan said, placing a gentle hand on Nova's head. "She thinks the human-Lumidian hybridization is stable." They had settled on Titan after fleeing the Jupiter system, finding refuge among the independent research outposts, where Dr. Hamish had connections. Here, beyond the immediate reach of Earth-based corporations like Vexillion, they had built a life together. Ryan now worked as a consultant for the atmospheric research teams, studying Titan's unique nitrogen-methane atmosphere, while Vanra had returned to her work as a cultural interpreter, helping the diverse species of the outpost communicate effectively. Dr. Hamish visited regularly, fascinated by Nova's development and the resonant bond that had made her existence possible. "Have you told Kazara the news?" Vanra asked, referring to the Arcturan veterinarian who had made their escape possible. "Sent an encrypted message yesterday," Ryan confirmed. "She says she's not surprised. Apparently she sensed something special when she saw us together that first night." "Light recognizes light across the void," Vanra quoted her glow, pulsing with affection. Nova made a soft cooing sound, her tiny hands reaching up as small pulses of light traveled across her skin in response to her parents' voices. Ryan watched his impossible family thinking about the journey that had brought them here. A discarded gurney, an unorthodox veterinarian, a dangerous dive beneath Europa's ice, each step a defiance of the cold calculations that had deemed Vanra's life not worth saving. "What are you thinking?" Vanra asked, sensing the shift in his emotional state through their bond. "About cost-benefit analyses," Ryan replied with a small smile, "and how they never account for the real value of things." Vanra's light pulsed in agreement. "Some things cannot be calculated." "No," Ryan agreed gently, taking their daughter's tiny hand. "Some things you just have to feel." Outside their viewport, Saturn's rings continued their eternal dance, indifferent to corporate balance sheets and profit margins. While inside, a new kind of light grew stronger with each passing day, proof that sometimes the most precious things in life are those deemed not worth saving by those who can only see value in numbers.